RPGs have to be one of my favorite kinds of video games. There's just something so satisfying about fighting things to level up. Whether it's turn-based or action-based, I am all for it. That includes this game. Trust me, this game kicks ass. Setting aside the presentation for a moment, Atlyss is an action RPG as well as a dungeon crawler that was released in November of last year. It's single player or co-op, so you can play with friends or join a lobby full of people that can help you out, or even engage in some friendly PvP. It's basically just an MMO. I actually found this game thanks to Iron Pineapple talking about other Souls-like games, and Atlyss just happened to be included in the video, and I thought the game looked fun, so I decided to give it a try. And just like any other MMORPG, you get to make a character that best reflects yourself, or even roleplay a character you had in mind. So let's just start up a new file and...
Are you an insane?
Yeah, let's just say this game has its audience, but I'm not faulting the game for that. The game knows who it wants to sell to, and I respect that. But I also believe you should look beyond your first impressions. Because even if I'm not the target audience for this, I can appreciate a good game when I see it. And I gotta say, it's the best feeling game I've had in such a long time. I mean, there's no better way to describe it. This game just makes me go, oh, you know? Very few games make me feel this way, and now Atlyss can sit right next to them. There's so much to talk about. It's like, I don't know where to start.
Start from the beginning, you retard.
The controls in this game, amazing. You get to zip around, dodge, and weave through any enemy and deal massive amounts of damage. It just feels satisfying. And that same satisfaction is amplified even more because of the game's class system. When you reach level 10, you get to choose between a fighter, a mystic, and a bandit. I'll be honest, I've only really played as the fighter class because it just seemed like the easiest to get into. I've tried the mystic class while writing for this video, and I gotta say, it's just as fun as the fighter. I don't know about the bandit class though, because I don't really like dex weapons in most games. But if the mystic class is anything to go by, maybe I'll give it a chance once I'm done editing. So fighter it is for now, because even if some of the weapons are slow and heavy, they hit hard enough to stagger mid-sized enemies. But that doesn't mean you can only use strength-focused weapons. The cool thing I appreciate about this game, that I wish other games would too, is that if you collect these stones, you can actually take them to this alchemist, and you can ask her to change the scaling properties of any weapon to suit your build. And that also ties back to something I find frustrating about other MMORPGs. You know when you do a dungeon wipe, right? And the end reward is a weapon you can't use because it's not part of your class? Well, Atlyss fixes that with these stones, and it's awesome. So now you can use this cool as hell magic bell that shoots rocks that cause bleed. And it's totally viable thanks to these colorful rocks. Of course, you can't forget about the skills. Skills in this game can be split between two categories. You got the class exclusive skills, meaning skills only meant for a fighter can't be learned unless you're a fighter yourself, and general skills that can be learned by anyone regardless of class. They work like spells since they take MP to use, and once used they go into cooldown. Some buff you, some do damage, some are just fuck you spells that annoy anyone that gets hit by them in PvP. Of course, you can have all the skills and weapons in the world, but it won't matter unless you know proper positioning. Take a look at this clip. Right now I'm on the second level of the catacombs, and even if the level requirement is 6 through 12, it's recommended that you upgrade your equipment to iron weapons. But just through clever movement and parrying, I'm able to take care of this encounter with ease. And don't worry about parrying in this game, it's actually quite easy compared to other games. And even if you struggle, don't worry, there's a skill for that. That's enough about the combat though, let's get to the dungeons now. After all, dungeon crawling is the core of Atlyss, and it's also my favorite aspect of this game. The dungeons themselves are pretty cool. They're a combination of fighting, puzzle solving, and platforming. Right now there are only 2 dungeons, the Catacombs and the Crescent Groves. Each of them are themed in their environments, with the Catacombs being underground and in the dark. And because these are catacombs, you get to fight ghost type enemies. And the fact that there are ghosts here means that they were either brought back through magic, or some of them have some unfinished business. And the Crescent Groves dungeon is a temple surrounded by jungle, and the enemies here are even more fleshed out than the catacombs, because you get to fight plant-like enemies because it's a jungle, but also golems because this is a temple, meaning they are here to protect it. And golems are obviously made of magic, so you'll find magicians here too. And you can't forget about the jungle's natural predators. The dungeons here are very thought out in terms of theming, not one thing looks out of place, and it's great to see. And while we're talking about enemies, I think it's about time we talk about their placement, because believe it or not, in every enemy encounter, whether it's in the dungeons or on the surface, there's gonna be monsters that complement each other in some way or another. They often spawn to either overwhelm you or debuff you, or sometimes a combination of the two. And it doesn't stop at just the normal enemies, because bosses will do the same thing. These two, whose names I can't pronounce, use their support as distractions to charge up their attacks. They even follow the same offense and support that I was talking about. There isn't really anything that sets them apart from one another besides one hitting harder than the other, so let's move on to the next boss. The Colossus is a different story because you get to fight it one-on-one. It's a pretty easy fight if you know how to parry. The only thing you have to look out for is if it reaches half health. When that happens, these 2 brothers will come and help it. Both of them are magic users that act as hybrid support because they know the skill Cross at rank 3, which drops your magic defense down 15 points. And if it lands, it gives the other the chance to use Flux Bolt. So as a team, these 3 are pretty well rounded with a solid strategy of hitting you hard and weakening you where it hurts. But even if these 3 are the most well rounded, they aren't the scariest. And no, using your children as meat shields does not good teamwork make. The undeniable kings of teamwork in this game are the Rage Boars. These charging hams are one of the most annoying enemies to deal with, simply because they work flawlessly to fuck you over. And you'd better react quickly and take advantage of those invincibility frames, otherwise you'll get blindsided by the future bone marrow charging at you. So while you're fighting for your life, these nightmare bacons are playing volleyball with your pin-cushioned body. So you know what? Why not return the favor, if they're so fond of using it? After all that's been said and done, I've only scratched the surface of what this game offers. I mean, I haven't even talked about the multiplayer and all that has to offer, and for a game that's early access, is frankly amazing. And if you want to check out this game for yourself, it's only $10 on Steam. I highly recommend it. Oh, also, you can do this, and that's pretty cool.